Continually spread the word, and council is just not going to tolerate vegetation vandalism. Thank you, Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Speaker against. Any other speakers? Councillor Green speaking for.
Speaking for, thank you. This is another incredibly disappointing and selfish act perpetrated by a member of the community, and as a frequent user of the Mackay Esplanade shared path, I can attest that where there is no shade, it can get quite hot and exposed in parts, decreasing the enjoyment of the path for all the users in the hotter months. And if you look at the pictures of where this has occurred, it is very close to the path and in the park itself. So we're removing shade trees for the enjoyment of all the community in that area. So removing trees for the alleged purpose of improving one's own view impacts the enjoyment of many others in this space. It decreases the cooling effect of trees, it degrades the foreshore environment and potentially reduces the livability for all residents in this area. So a shameful act, and I'm pleased for the recommendation of council to take action. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Are there any other speakers? Councillor England speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've said it before, the only reason rules exist in society is because some people don't give a stuff about other people. This has been ongoing in this area for a little while. And part of the education to our residents should be the understanding that there is not a scenario in which the perpetrators of this stuff get what they want. You poison a tree, you cut it down, we're going to put 3 more trees in there. You keep doing it, we're going to keep doing it. And until those trees have grown to their full height, we're going to put a billboard in front of there. There is not a scenario in which someone who wants to cut down a tree for a view or whatever wins while we have this policy in place. And I commend the recommendation of the officer.
Thanks, Councillor England. Are there any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. 11.2.3, Activate My Place report. This is an application, review and recommendation. 3 great projects here. Marion, Serena and Mackay CBD. It's a fairly straightforward report. Director, is there anything you wish to add to this?
No, Your Worship. As you said, it's quite straightforward. We've got 3 great applications, very excited with the take-up, and I think also the promotion work that was undertaken by the economic development team for the program means that next time we run another round, I think we'll get another lot of really good applications. So it's excellent.
Questions? No questions? Somebody like to move the reports of option? Councillor May moves, Councillor Mann seconds, Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Yes, and as the Director has said, it was great to see the consultation with the Progress Associations to raise the awareness of this program. It's a great program, and it's open to all, whether at a community-based organisation or business or individual. So I think we will see in our region 3 great murals come to life when these projects are carried out. So to all of the successful applicants, and I note there that we negotiated with the 9th lane applicant to be able to fit within the funding program, as in we didn't have enough money to fund the entire program. So we look forward to possibly that coming back as a stage 2 of an application into the future. But yeah, looking forward to these rolling out across our region.
Thanks, Councillor May. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Mann speaking for.
Yes, thank you, Bishop. Yep. Look, I happen to be involved in the meeting for Marion State World PNC, and the President came with a very clear idea on what the mural was going to be, very clear idea on the artists that they wanted to engage, and that's still their intention to engage Scott Nagy, who was one of the artists on the Slade Point Water Tower mural. And they also intend to involve students from Moroney State High School to be mentored by the artist, but to help complete the mural as well. So from what I've seen, it's a fantastic collaboration from people in that part of the region, and I'm very excited to see it completed.
Thanks, Councillor Mann. Any other speakers? Put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Right. Righto, it's time to move on to our ECI reports for the month of May. So the first one is the Transport and Drainage Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. So highlighting no LTIs for the month, which is pleasing to see, but probably the best thing was only 2 incidents, which was the lowest number of incidents recorded for the last 12 months. So very good to see. A lot of business as usual in the civil operations program, and I think sometimes we underestimate the number of assets they maintain right across our region. So they pretty much have touch points everywhere. But lots of work going into drains, catching up with the rain, and special maintenance where we probably get in and actually do a de-vegetation rather than just a mow. Obviously, good to see a couple of extra crews on with our unsealed roads. So field services crew on at the moment and a contract crew to do some catch-up work there. The customer survey results for March and April came back again strong, which is pleasing to see. And budget, while tracking behind at the current point in time, have a belief that we'll get close to the end of the year budget by the time the end of the year rolls on.
Thanks, Director. Questions for the Director? Councillor Mann.
I did have one in electronic page 84. 80% of the monthly action plans were carried out when the target is 90%. So I'm just wondering if there's a reason.
Director, can you answer that?
You'll have to take that on notice. The worship will come back.
Okay. Happy with that. Further questions? Councillor Bella.
My question is regarding the open drain maintenance and mention made of the notification and consultation with DAF. Is that in any way slowing our progress? Do we have a standard approach notification, or have we got to go through an application every time we wish to do it?
Director.
Yeah, through your worship, very good question. So it certainly slowed our progress because traditionally we've been able to go in and do the de-vegetation. There was a change in position around marine plants which required us to go through a DA process, which has taken some considerable time. But once that's in place, that should allow us to then just maintain the program service level around those drains.
So,
Councillor Bella.
if I understand correctly, you're saying that eventually there will be no ongoing time delay?
Big part, sorry.
If I understand you correctly, are you saying that there will be no ongoing time delay once we get that process worked out? Has it impacted the way we clean those drains at all?
Yeah, through your worship. So in the interim period without the DA application, we've had to leave one side fully vegetated and not being able to clear that at all. So you will see around some of our drains where there's one side highly vegetated and then the base and the other side are actually clear. So that's what we can do under the current terms. The DA will give us an approval then to be able to clear the whole lot. once we have that in place, yeah, we've got the approval in place to be able to go back and do that on just a continued program.
And just in closing, to close that out, that DA in place, is that in perpetuity, or is it something we've got to reapply for periodically?
Yeah, through your worship, it's not in perpetuity, but it's for a period of time, so I'd have to take on notice.
I'd appreciate
Review
it.
period at some point.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bellew. Councillor May.
Just a question on electronic page 86 in the financial performance report there, and I note in the civil operations, the commentary around the reduced level of main roads maintenance. I'm just wondering whether the director might be able to give us some insights into why that's come about.
Director?
Yeah, through your worship. I believe it's just a timing issue, Councillor May, so I think we're on target still to be able to do that. So some of that can be that just the accrual accounting period 13 comes in, so sometimes there is a slight delay, but I expect the TMR to be fully expended. Overall civil ops is probably forecast and they might be slightly under their budget in the financial year.
Thank you.
Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Your Worship. Page 92 is a mention of the asset valuations, water and sewerage review. Just wanting to know how long this is going to take to be able to determine the useful life of our assets and review the ones that are reaching the end of the life. When will we get some feedback about that?
Good question.
Yeah, good question. The formal valuation process is happening in the new financial year, so this is actually just pre-work we're doing. So trying to get a handle on some work before we actually get into the formal valuation, but just rechecking what our asset lives are for water and sewage, comparing that to industry and seeing if there's going to be an impact going into the valuation period.
Okay, and when do we expect this whole thing to be?
Yeah, through your worship, I think we'll look to obviously get the value on about October to start doing the work, and then depending on what the detail of the data is and what work there is, so hopefully post-Christmas we'll have an outcome in relation to the position of the valuation for water.
Okay. Any further questions? You've got another one, Councillor May?
Yes, just as a follow-up to the information around the asset valuation, I note on page 92 that we have now received the valuation plan, and I'm just wondering whether at some stage can councillors have a copy of that valuation plan, just to have an understanding of what's entailed in that.
Yes, it's big.
Yeah, happy to bring that back as a briefing or a position paper.
Maybe a briefing, Director, that'll be good.
Yep.
So that we all understand. Any further questions? No further questions? Somebody like to move then the report's adoption. Councillor Mann moves, Councillor Hassan seconds, Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to make mention of safety performance as well, with no LTIs and minimal incidents. I think it's a big thanks to our staff for being so vigilant within their work crews. There was a high volume of maintenance activities with signage, pothole repairs, drain maintenance and footpath repairs being the highest for the month. Program line marking works are being undertaken, and in some high traffic areas they're being done at night, which I think is incredibly sensible. So it minimises disruption to business, reduces traffic delays, but also looks after our staff as well, as far as I'm concerned anyway. High volume of unsealed road maintenance activities with 8 crews out in total, so certainly they're helping to deliver our program works. Footpath cleaning in small shopping precincts has commenced and should be finished, or should be now mostly complete. And I just wanted to make mention of a business owner who moved to a new premises in the city heart, and she was absolutely delighted on opening day to see the footpath outside the shop was pristine, and she's very, very thankful for that.
Thanks, Councillor Mann. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Bella speaking for.
I'd just like to make mention, following up on my comments regarding the interactions with DAF. Council does cop a great deal of criticism regarding some of our works, especially with drains and mowing and that sort of thing. And there is this undercurrent, that people aren't aware of, that many of our operations are in actual fact retarded by factors that aren't under our control. Drains can't be done while it's raining, or it's difficult to. When the time comes, having to apply for something like this, doing, and I actually have heard criticism, they only did part of the drain, they didn't do the whole drain. And this is directly attributable to the requirements of DAF. I've found that in many cases, in dealings with government departments as a landholder and whatever, their requirements are idealistic and they're not practical. It's very difficult to please them in a lot of ways and to actually get an outcome that's acceptable to everyone. So my congratulations do actually go to our department, and I look forward to the time when we're not being held back by having to apply for something that I believe is unnecessary.
Well said, Councillor Bella, thank you very much. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just the graph on page 88. Look, I appreciate the graph on the gravel road conditions in this report, and it gives us a background on the current state of our gravel roads. And as Councillor Mann said, we've had several crews out there improving the maintenance on those roads. And we have gone, if you look at the graph, we've gone from a score of 13 6 months ago to an average score condition now of 8.8. And 6 months ago, 143 gravel roads that were in poor condition, with a score of 13, down to now a number of 19. This is a very important road on our rural network, work on our rural road network, especially with the higher road use we will be getting at the start of the crushing season. I thank the Director for the efforts and ask this to be forwarded on to relevant staff. Following on from Councillor Bella and to the staff again, thank you for the before and after photos of that special maintenance works on the open drains in Hoey Street. And I understand, as has been mentioned, that this project has included notification to and consultation with the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries in relation to the marine plant trimming. These works are very important, especially in reducing flood levels in those low-lying areas. And on behalf of the residents involved, I say thank you for the efforts that you've gone to, and I look forward to seeing more of this type of drainage improvements in the future. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Any other speakers? No other speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? There you go. The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Still on ECI, we'll move on to waste. Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. Hogan's Pocket landfill has slightly decreased, so very hard to get a read on what's happening with that being up and down, but it's still reasonably high compared to the average over the last 12 months in about over 8,000 tonnes being received at Hogan's Pocket. You'll note that we've started a recycling bin inspection program, so we use that obviously to have a look at our bins and obviously identify the amount of contamination we're seeing. So looking forward to seeing those results and being able to present them back to council and the community to see how we're progressing in relation to our contamination rates. Current year-to-date budget actuals is tracking ahead of budget, so it's good to see, but that's probably aligned to the increase in tonnages we're seeing coming through Hogan's Pocket. We started planning for the Great Northern Cleanup in late August, so looking forward to good participation from the community in relation to that. Just want to highlight, so 307,123 bin lifts for the month and 38 new services, so that's very good to see. You will see that for the last 5 months, the number of bin replacement has sort of trended to be higher than the previous 6 months. I'm not exactly sure for that, but obviously people are being more diligent about their bins, so that's good to see. And the vouchers redemption, just highlighting, so the current spend for the year to date is about 585,000 for vouchers that have been redeemed this financial year. Happy to take any further questions.
Thanks, Director. Questions for the Director, Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Your Worship. On page 107, there is a graph, and I just wondered why there was such a big drop in Facebook people reached, and why, where is the other data for the graph that it's missing?
Director, can you answer that?
Through Your Worship, a little bit. It depends on what's happening at the time, I suppose, in relation to council priorities and in relation to waste and what we're putting out there. So I would say at that period of time we haven't been posting much in relation to Facebook, particularly about waste activities, but I think the opportunity off the back of the bin inspections will probably come up shortly to repost and get that prioritised again.
And the data that's missing? The data that's missing?
Councillor, there's, as you can see, there's no media releases or media updates, and that actually derives the downturn in the interaction. So
Oh, okay.
What data are
Yeah,
you
no,
referring
that's
to?
all right, that's all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there further questions? Councillor Miller.
I do have a question, and I don't in any way expect it to be answered immediately, but I have a concern that is kind of across a couple of different areas, but it comes down to our landfill as well, our waste services. Anecdotally, and it seems to keep going on, there appears to be no particular way of recycling solar panels other than going into landfill. And I'm wondering whether we have any strategy or are investigating anything with regard to doing something about that, especially since we've taken up using solar panels ourselves quite a lot. So are we going along that pathway of it all ending up in landfill, or do we have investigations going on? And the same sort of question with regard to the, as we're moving towards investigating electric vehicles, with the disposal of the batteries of those. The concerning thing to me is we have had problems with heavy metal contamination at Hogan's Pocket. These batteries and solar panels are comprised of those same metals. So I'm wondering where we're going to go with that. So,
Thanks, Councillor Bella. Good questions. You might take those on notice.
Good question. I have to take on notice on solar panels. Obviously, in relation to alternative recycling opportunities, we certainly look to the local market to be able to drive those. So I'll check that up. Certainly, batteries shouldn't be disposed of and shouldn't be going to Hogan's Pocket. So they've got an alternative process to be recycled. So, but on the solar panel ones, we'll follow that up and see what the opportunity is around the local region for recycling those.
Thanks. Okay. Further questions? Councillor Bonaventura.
Just on the capital projects, I noticed we're preparing for the resheeting of the Hogan's Pocket road, and just want to confirm whether we are using crushed glass, continuing to use the crushed glass on that road.
We started it, didn't we?
We did a
Yes,
section.
right. Director?
Yeah, through your worship, given that's our signature project, the use of crushed glass, we'll continue to use crushed glass on that.
Pleased to hear it. Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions? Would somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor Jones moves, Councillor Hassan seconds, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. On page 102, I just wanted to say that personally I really appreciate the one page of information regarding the safety update. Make no mistake, Your Worship, I really care about our staff and their well-being. But when we get our reports, we get 5 pages on safety that detail how many paper cuts at times our staff received. And I just don't think at times that it's really warranted at our high level as being Board of Directors. I know that the details for safety would be the responsibility of the CEO and the staff to deal with at that operational level. And I know that if there was something that was quite serious, I know that the CEO would notify us about that. I would like to thank the CEO and the Director for making the change to this report down to the 1 page, and because I'm sure that, you know, the Board of Directors of Woolworths, for example, wouldn't get a list of paper cuts or you know, small safety issues reported to them at their monthly meetings. I'll just leave it for the CEO and managers to deal with, and I do look forward to the other directors following in suit in their reports. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, speaker against? Are there any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. Thank you. And ECO Water for the month of May. Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just focusing on safety, so no LTIs for year to date for the water business, given they're in a high risk environment. It's really great to see that. There were 4 incidents for the month. Water consumption continues to be pretty steady. Obviously the impact of the rain we've had in the last few months continues to have an impact on that. You'll note that the leakages we're seeing from residential and non-residential properties is equivalent of 29 Olympic swimming pools lost for the month. So still a significant amount in relation to water. We continue to actively work with those residents and businesses to try and obviously fix those as quickly as we can. Great to see 271 new My H2O registrations for the month, likely off the back of the water accounts being out and people being more aware, but still good to see a pick up in those numbers. And again, just to highlight strong customer service results for March and April in the water business. So obviously a business that needs to respond quickly, but obviously good to see lots of positive comments there about interactions with our customers.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Director. Are there questions for the Director? No questions? It's certainly good to see the focus on the leakages, and it's great to see the increase in the numbers of people registering for My H2O. Just beggars belief that everybody's not on it, and that should be the outcome. But anyway, we will just continue the push. Somebody like to move then the Water Services Monthly Review be adopted? Councillor Hassan moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Hassan.
So as the Director alluded to, the Water Services team consistently performed very well in the area of safety, and again having no lost time injuries for May and indeed up this financial year to date, and only 4 minor incidents reported. And those reported incidents vary between asset damage and near misses, and of course serve as a good reminder to staff and our contractors just to remain vigilant where safety is concerned. May saw an increase of 28% on the previous month for plumbing applications, with 88 applications submitted with an approval turnaround time of just 1 day, which was well within the time frame. So those plumbing applications are obviously required for all new buildings and also any modifications to existing plumbing. So it's a really good indicator of the building activity that's still going on within the region. I'd also like to congratulate the team on their results related to fulfilling their work orders. For April, a total of 279 work orders were generated, and of those, 91% were completed within their specified time frame. And as always, the team were extremely busy in the month. They had 51 estimates provided to customers, 30 audits undertaken, and as the Director said, 6,105 potential leak notifications sent to ratepayers. So all in all, another busy month, and the consistently positive feedback received this team's obviously to be congratulated towards it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? Councillor Mann speaking for.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah. Look, I wanted to highlight the safety performance as well, no lost time to injury, and 100% of monthly action plans completed. I actually want to make mention of incidents that are reported because I think it's extremely important. Any incident, there can be a learning from it, and I think that everybody needs to be aware of the incidents and the learnings that we can achieve by knowing about those. I just wanted to make mention too of our laboratory with routine sampling and testing is business as usual, but they're also looking, they've got efforts in also being discussed on improving workflow efficiencies, which I think is really commendable, and it's something that's going to benefit all staff.
Thanks, Councillor Mann. Other speakers? Councillor Bella speaking for.
As has already been mentioned, probably the thing that really jumped out to me when you read this report is the number of leaks that ceased, which is great, and that continued. And what it makes you think about, like, we have very good water in this region. The water's the water, you can only do so much with it. So issues we have at Mitch Point and those sort of things, we've done our best to try and fix those. We've won awards in other areas. But when you get down to leaks, it's not just the fact that it's so many swimming pools or whatever. The water that leaks is treated to the highest standard. And that's the problem with the way we do things, and there is no other way. But the water out of the end of the hose is as good as the water in your fridge. And in many cases, some spring water you buy, our water is actually better than that. So I believe there's almost a moral imperative. You know, there's so much effort, so much time and so much care goes into the treatment of our water. To treat it in such a blasé, cavalier attitude, you know, oh, that leak can go for a while and whatever. And then, to be honest, to complain about your water bill beggars belief. And I really think that, once again, there is actually a moral imperative to join up to My H2O, not just for your own pocket, but also for preserving a resource that is not only hard to get, but we spend so much time and effort and finance, of course, in bringing it up to a standard that is basically as high as you can get anywhere in Australia.
Thanks, Councillor Bella, well said. Are there other speakers? No other speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Here you go. Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on to organisational services now. The Org Services monthly review report for May. Director.
Safety continues to be a focus of the department with no LTIs reported since 17/18. So highlights over the past month include still on safety. This month saw the development of the 21-22 Safety Action Plan, which continues to deliver outcomes from the 2019-2022 Safety Strategy. The culmination of many months of hard work across the organisation will see the 21-22 budget and long-term financial forecast presented to Council for adoption this afternoon. I would particularly like to thank the finance team and their new manager, Justin Rule, on their efforts. National Volunteer Week was held from the 17th to the 23rd of May. The theme for the week was Recognise, Reconnect, Reimagine, and was an opportunity for Council to celebrate and thank our volunteers. Council volunteers received a thank you letter from the Mayor and CEO, as well as free plant vouchers from the Natural Environment. Procurement Operations team have had a busy month leading into the end of the financial year with 3,207 invoices being processed in May. We continue to prioritise local spend with 70% of our expenditure being spent in the local area. Mark attendance figures continue to rise, particularly the use of the athletics track at this time of the year. This month saw 2,950 attendees at the track, up from 956 last month. Information services continue to achieve high internal customer satisfaction results, with 99% of customers reporting their experience was either met or exceeded. Whilst the customer service team continue to achieve outstanding customer satisfaction results to our external customers, with 96% of completed surveys saying they are satisfied with the services provided. I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Director. Shows you how big this organisation is when we process 3,200 invoices in a month. And 70% spent locally, that's a great outcome. Are there questions for the Director? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. I just note on page 142 and then again on 145. So on 142, the last dot point, it talks about the work continuing on a policy, the Planning and Risk Framework Review Project, that it's been completed and that there's an endorsement by the project management team achieved. And then on 145 talks about the draft being refreshed and it's undergoing review by stakeholders. So I'm just chasing a time frame on when that will come back to councillors for us to have.
Certainly, thanks, Councillor Jones. Director.
Yeah, through you, Worship. That's a significant body of work. I don't have a time frame at the moment. We're working through what the roadmap will look like and how we're going to roll it out throughout the organisation. But at the moment, we've just got the high level framework.
Okay, so it could be 6-12 months down the track, that type of time frame.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mann.
So my question is about KPIs around grade of service and abandoned calls. So in the last 6 months, there's been 4 instances where KPI for grade of service isn't met, and 2 for abandoned calls. So I'm wondering if our staffing levels are right in shared services. Are the staff fully trained, and should the KPIs be adjusted?
Director.
So in relation to the KPIs have been in place for over a number of years. They haven't been reviewed, so that is something we could look at. In terms of staffing, that is one area where we tend to see a high turnover, so getting new staff, getting them trained up to be able to answer calls, and it does take a good probably 2 months, we say, to get someone from new to the organisation to be able to confidently answer calls. So it's a continual thing that we're working on, and we're continually looking at our staffing levels and what options we can do around managing high volume times. Sometimes it just happens that we might get 10 calls all at once and then have nothing for the next couple of hours. So it's really trying to manage those expectations.
Certainly, from the recruitment reports for many months now, we've been looking for staff in that area. It's very difficult to find staff. So, Councillor Mann.
So I was just going to say, should we have a look at that KPI given our challenges with staff?
I guess the director has already said they're going to have a look. You'll have a look?
Yeah, we'll do
Okay,
it.
thank you. Okay, councillor May.
I was just going to ask, looking at the volume of calls there, of 377 calls per day, how many staff do we actually have answering those calls?
Good question. Director?
Very good question, I'll take that on notice.
No, okay. I think that just puts it into context for us as to what we're dealing with and what the staff need to deal with.
When you walk through there, not a lot.
No.
I don't have the numbers. Are there other questions? Councillor Seymour.
There's one here that while lifting an EWP out of the back of a van, it slipped out of the hands. Was this too heavy to lift, or the reason they dropped it? You know, because an EWP to me has got a bit of weight involved. So.
Director, can we answer that one?
I believe it was the way they were lifting it, but I will find out more information.
Thank you. We'll get back to us. That'll be good. Further questions? No further questions for the director. Would somebody like to move the adoption of the monthly org services report? Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Worship. I wanted to make mention of safety performance, no LTIs since 2017-18, and minimal incidents. So the directorate is to be congratulated definitely for their continued focus on safety. I'd like to acknowledge too the shared services staff, and especially the call centre. They do an incredible body of work for this council, and they are our first point of contact, and 96% of completed surveys indicated our external customers are satisfied. That's a fantastic result. And I'm sure there's been some difficult conditions, as the director said, with staff turnover and that sort of thing as well. It was good to see the number of vacant positions did decrease from April though. And I know there's a lot of businesses around the region experiencing issues with filling positions, so I'm glad to see ours has decreased slightly. The lead up to the end of the financial year is very busy, and you mentioned AP, 3,207 invoices processed in May, as opposed to 2,905 for the same period last year, so definitely a big increase, and again a small team. And I would like to say a very big thank you to Financial Services. Not only have they prepared a budget, they've done an enormous amount of work leading up to end of financial year, and also business as usual, so that's a massive amount of work for a relatively small team of people.
Yeah, well said. Okay, are there any other speakers? Any other speakers? Speaking for Councillor Bella.
I'd just like to pull one section out of the report, the abandoned calls. 5% actually might sound significant at first, but if you look at our take-up of callback rate, I think that's pretty good. And as with everything, the closer you get to your target, the harder it is to get those last little bits. I would suggest that there's an element of people there making those calls, that it's a spur of the moment thing. And, you know, the ability to call, get onto someone straight away allows them to vent. Whereas if it takes a bit of time, cooler heads prevail and that settles down. So while it'd be nice to see it lower than 5%, I really wonder what we can achieve. So that doesn't alarm me in any way. The other thing I'd like to note is that the average callback time, 1 minute and 20 seconds. Now, we're a moderate-sized regional council. Anyone that has been on hold with organisations such as Telstra, which are large national companies, and have sat there for 45 minutes to well over the hour, I think can see the perspective that I'm looking at this through, so congratulations.
Thanks, Councillor Bella. Are there any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. 11.4.2, adoption of a council policy. This is policy number 31. It's the grants policy. We dealt with this policy on the 10th of February. This is just some fixes that we had for the policy around the approval processes and small equipment grants, and the re-establishment of a redefined COVID-19 hardship grant for the 2021-2022 budget period. Are there questions at all? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. In light of the fact that the last week or two has been quite busy with budget as well as, getting ready for today's meetings, I note that there are the 12 policies that we're approving today, but I was curious about what the
12
actual...
policies, there's only one.
Two.
Or two?
Oh, so one.
One.
All the grants, I meant all the grants.
All right,
within-
so
sorry.
they're wrapped up in one
Sorry.
policy.
Yes, that's correct. So there's the 12 grants within the policy, and what I'm curious about, and I haven't had time to research it myself, but I'm wondering, and I know it's across the different departments, and I'm happy for the director to take it on notice, if there's any chance I can get the figures in the budget that we actually spend for all of those grants when we put them out, like what's our total amount? Like, for example, our community grants, we spend $500,000 a year on that particular grant. So what is the amount that we allocate for all the grants, the 12 grants?
Well, that's a budget allocation. We can certainly do that.
Yeah.
Director, do you wish to contribute?
I can give a high-level answer to that, Your Worship. We have, across all of the various grant programs through the departments, we have budgeted just over 2.6 for all of those different grant categories, which includes the special COVID grant that was part of this current year's budget.
That's all I needed. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
So yeah, this is not a debate about the dollars around
No,
the
no,
grant process.
not at
This is just adopting the policy that
Yeah.
allows us to distribute those grants. Are there further questions? No further questions. Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Englert. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And as you've said, this is a review of the grants policies for a number of different categories of community grants and community type grants that we have. It's great to see that Council is including the COVID-19 hardship grant again this year. We know from working with our community-based organisations, dealing with them, how difficult last year was been, and they were very appreciative of the grants that were made available through the COVID recovery process from our local council, and to have an opportunity to continue that on for the next 12 months, I think will be seen in very good light from community-based organisations.
Thanks, Councillor May. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.4.3 is the adoption of the operational plan. We've had briefings on this, several, and opportunities to comment. CEO.
Thank you. Just like to commend this plan to Council. This is what officers and staff are going to deliver on over the next 12 months in line with the corporate plan. You'll note there are 8 priority areas there that we'll be delivering on. We'll be monitoring and reporting back to Council on how we're going against the operational plan, and we're looking forward to a high level achievement as we have done with the current operational plan.
Thanks, CEO. Other questions based around this plan? If there's no questions, would somebody like to move the plan's adoption for 2021 to 2022? That's right. Councillor Mann.
Thank you.
Secondly, Councillor Green. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Your Worship. And look, I won't go on about it, but the CEO did highlight 8 key priorities and an enormous amount of work in each of those priorities. So I'm sure staff are very well aware of what they're getting themselves into, but it will be really good to see all these priorities achieved throughout the year.
Thank you very much. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thanks. There's no petitions to receive today. There's no tenders. There's no notified motions, public participation. We have one person registered to speak today, and that's Mr. Purdy. So the rules of engagement are, Darren, that you have 3 minutes. This is not an interactive session, and there will be no debate with councillors, but welcome to the council, and we'll listen to you for 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, good morning, Mayor, councillors. I apologise for my ties, it was sprung on me last minute. But as a resident and 3rd generation business owner in town, there was a concern. A couple of councillors already know my predicament. I had a meeting with you probably 18 months ago now about my dog issue, barking dogs. And I just feel there is, after a certain amount of time, there should be more done with the situation. That's what I'm coming forward, and also just to put a face and, on the phone, rather sending emails, just put a face to the person who's got the complaint here. And it's not just me, it's my family anymore, it's when your wife's getting up and yelling at the neighbour's dogs, because you can't sit there and listen to your TV at night. It's been, well over 3 years this has been going on for. And I sort of, just want you guys to put a face to this problem that we have. Like, Well, and also, like, my other concern is with, I know you're, animal control guys, I've got Craig's number, I've got, as in Craig Shepherd, and I've got, we've talked to Nicole, just said we converse with them every so often. I just wish we'd get a bit of feedback there, as in, send the email, you get nothing back, you don't know whether they've talked to the people or something's been done. Just a little bit of feedback would be great.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Derek. I'll ask the CEO to follow up with you. I know there's been a lot of interaction with our local laws. Excuse me. I know there's been a lot of interaction with our local laws, and the CEO will take it from here. Thank you. All right. Late business. Anybody have late business for the council? No late business? Councillors, we have some confidential reports, and there's certainly a confidential report around the restructure of the DA and DE area that we'd like the Director to speak to us about. So I'd like to move that the meeting be closed to the public. Councillor Mann moves, Councillor Bonaventura seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen. So we're back online. We'll just wait for anybody in the public gallery. All right, so the confidential reports under agenda item 17.1 is the Legal Services Monthly Report for this last month of May. Somebody like to move its adoption? Councillor Bonaventura moves. Councillor Englert seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried, thank you. 17.2, the approved sponsorship under the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program. And the officer's recommendation is that this report is noted. Somebody like to move? Councillor Townsend moves. Councillor Mann seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously, thank you. 17.3, the approved concessions under the Facilitating Development of the Mackay Region Policy for May. And the officer's recommendation is that the council notes the reception of this report. Somebody like to move? Councillor Green moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. And finally, 17.4, the organisation structural change for DA and DE in the council, and that council adopts the amended structural change. Somebody like to move? Councillor Hassan moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, CEO and directors. Declare the meeting closed.